But I look at like someone that you fought, and it was with a teammate of mine, Islam Makhachev. Seeing him now be the champion though, and realizing like, look, I was in there. Some good scrap, 3 rounds. I mean, the former champ wasn't able to go 1 round with him. Where does that mentally put you, knowing like, look, give me another shot. Get me right there again where I could potentially get that back.
I mean, I learned a lot from my fight with him. I mean, just he was able to dismantle my grappling wholeheartedly, and like I took a lot from it, both technically and mentally. And then Volkanovski with his first fight with Islam kind of showcased what I was thinking that needs to be different when you fight a person like him. And so, you know, me moving 3 rounds with him and then giving him a submission because I was going for broke just shows my caliber and what I'm capable of. Now, I'm not satisfied with, going to the judges' scorecards or even taking L's. So we're changing and adjusting and improving to where I'm winning these fights, and I'm not just hanging with these guys, and I'm not satisfied with being a gatekeeper. So we're moving forward to really wreck the house.
There's another guy on there that I also fought. I got an L by him. You got the win over him, was Bobby Green. And Bobby, I feel like, is also kind of a late bloomer. He's kind of coming into his own a little bit, especially during COVID where he was so active. But when I look at the way you fought him in the first round, and it was not going your way, taking some shots and all these things, but then you came back, made the adjustments, listened to your corners, put the pressure, put his back to the fence, and had success. Like, what was your corner telling you, and what mentally was going through your mind from round 1 to round 2?
I mean, I think I make this mistake frequently and more recently with my last fights, and I get tunnel vision on a game plan, right? And like I'm very focused and I'm following orders and I'm trying to do everything I can do to like impress my coaches and do that stuff. And pretty much what we discussed in the second round was I wasn't being natural. I mean, my coach, like I sat down in that stool and I was like, well, that didn't work. Well, what's next? And the coaches were pretty much like, Drew, how hard does he hit? I'm like, well, not that hard. He goes, then you do you then. Just go out there and do what you do best. And so I was like, all right. So then I just started behaving a little bit more naturally. And I think that is one thing I had to bring back as of recent, which is behaving more of like myself in the octagon versus trying to be, what I'm told or, trying to follow this game plan too diligently.
Yeah, where were you at the end of my career when I was just trying to stick to the game plan? Shit wasn't working. I just called it a career. I was like, gosh damn it. The adjustments are difficult to do in between rounds. People don't understand how much mental warfare you go through in yourself, because the whole camp you spent like, this is the game plan, this is what we're doing, and then when round 1 doesn't work out, you're like, go back, you're like, all right, well shit, what do we do now?
Mm-hmm. And that's why you got to give credit to those guys that, their opponent gets injured and they have a last minute replacement. Islam with Volkanovski, because I mean, they've been focusing on this one style, this one game plan for 8 weeks, and all of a sudden they got to change it up. I fought Terrence McKinney in a week notice. Everyone prizes him like taking the fight in a week notice. I'm like, man, but I was training for a completely different dude, and now Terrence shows up. So yeah, it's difficult to kind of change things on the fly.
It is difficult. There's no doubt. Let me ask you this as far as your career, going all the way back, because you fought for Strikeforce, you fought for Bellator, you fought in Victory and Titan and all those. A lot of people don't see those fights. I saw those fights. You've been in the UFC for a long. What's, in your opinion, what was your favorite fight? What was your most frustrating fight?
All right. I would say we'll start with the most frustrating fight, and that was my fight against Will Brooks, who was later to be the Bellator champion. Man, he beat me by half guard. Like it was just so frustrating because I couldn't defend his takedowns, and he just sat on top, and like it was probably one of the most boring fights I've ever been a part of. And I lost by decision. I was like, man, I felt like I had to give the audience a refund. Like that was painful. Now as far as exciting goes, it'd be the fight right before I got signed by the UFC. I fought previously I fought T.J. O'Brien, UFC vet.
Yep.
Beat the guy, choked him out, won. I thought I was, going to get that call, that UFC call, and it never came. So I heard there was this man named Tony Sims in Denver, Colorado, knocking everybody out in the first round, and the UFC had their eyes on him. And so I was like, all right, well, if I can't get the limelight, I'm just going to steal this guy's. So I flew out to Colorado.
So mean.
Yeah. I mean, it's a selfish
Gotta
sport,
do it.
but man, I'm here to get beat up, and this man was aiming to do it. So, man, but was 6 first-round knockouts, 6-0. I mean, this dude was incredible. Hit like a ton of bricks. I've never been hit that hard in my life. It's still to this day
Wow.
never been hit that hard. But I just was able to showcase my ability of. I mean, he put me through hell in the first round. We made it through. We entered that second round, and I realized he's never been out of the first round. And now he's got to fight more with his heart. And I carry more heart than most people, and so we won that fight by split decision.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because that's kind of was my approach when I was first coming up. I was trying to get signed by the UFC, and I was fighting out of Idaho. And Jens Pulver was wrestling in Boise, lived in Boise at the time, Boise, Idaho, and he was tearing up the scene pretty much around that area in the Northwest. And so we kept getting almost matched up. And then finally we were pretty much in the last part of the negotiations to fight each other. And then the UFC called him, and the rest is history. Never saw that guy again. He was in the UFC and gone. And never, I mean, I saw him obviously at UFC events early in my career, but it was like, yeah, he's such a great guy too. But yeah, it was like, hey, I've got to try to steal this guy's limelight because that's the guy that everyone keeps talking about. If you're a young fighter, that approach is the best approach. I really believe.
Right. I mean, you got to get noticed somehow. There's not a straightforward path. And now I'm upset that I didn't get to witness a Josh Thomson and Jens Pulver fight. Like, that would have been such a beautiful fight.
I think back about that fight, and I go, man, how would it have gone? I think had we fought beforehand, he might have beat me because his wrestling was good. My wrestling was good. I say his wrestling a little bit better. He was a southpaw, and I didn't understand at that stage of my career what a pain in the ass southpaws were to deal with, because all the guys I trained with were all just regular orthodox. And so and then eventually I ended up sparring with a couple southpaws, and I was like, oh wow, this is a way different fight. This is way different. Wrestling takedowns are different. Clinch work is different. Everything, the way the punches, the way you dip, it has to be the different way. It changes everything. And I was so young. I was only 19 or 20 at the time, thinking to myself, man, I'm so glad I didn't take that fight. He would have fucking kicked my ass, probably.
It all gets back to that point of you don't know what you don't know until you know.
Yeah, this is true.
And that's part of fighting. It is a true statement, even though it sounds weird. It's really
Drew, though, I had this belief, like my shirt says, come at me, bro. I wrestled in high school. You know, like that's the belief I had at the time. Right? I was a good wrestler, wrestled a little bit in college here, and then I was training. I was like, man, I got jiu-jitsu. I got this guy. Bro, so lucky I probably didn't fight him. Probably didn't fight him at that time. I was lucky. Worked out. Everything worked out though for the benefit. So it was good.
Dude, little side note, man, when I think it was like 18 or 19, Sheradog had me like at 6-0. They were amateur fights, but they had me at like 6-0 on the website and stuff like that. So the WEC was like interested in like getting me in. And so I got a couple of WEC offers, one of which was Jose Aldo.
Oh, that's a good one.
They wanted me to fight Jose Aldo at 18 years old. And man, I'm so glad I had some intelligent people surrounding me. They're like, that is a hard no. You're like at 19, like you'd retire at 20 for sure.
100% agree. Okay.